What's up, guys? Me I am back with another video today. It's actually really early Wednesday morning, so you won't see this until after I get up. But I had to redo this video because the original video or the original upload was posted without audio, because I had something screwed up in my settings, so I had to fix that. But here we are with my 2021 NASCAR Cup Series predictions. And before we, of course, get into it, please make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. We're almost at 500 subs, which is freaking awesome, and something I never thought I'd be doing or getting to. But also make sure to use code ANJJ for free shipping on orders of $20 or more at Circle Diecast, and make sure to, just make sure to let me know down in the comments below who you think is going to win the 2021 NASCAR Cup Series title. With that said, before we get to the predictions, let's look at the points. And I'll have all of this stuff posted in the description below. But I think the crazy thing about this here is when you look at the points and you look at how they shake out, while Kyle Larson is sitting at the top right now with 2,052 points, which the interesting thing is if Hamlin was able to somehow get the regular season championship away from Larson, Hamlin would be at 2,030 points, Larson would be at 2,037, and Hamlin would actually be in second rather than in seventh, or tied for sixth with Alex Bowman. Larson would, of course, still be in the lead. But regardless of that, right now, second through 16th is within 22 points of each other. And for the guys at the back, it's going to be a bit of a challenge to move your way up. Especially considering the fact that not all of these guys have done that well at Darlington. And then you have Richmond and Bristol, both being short tracks, both being known to have large wrecks every so often, more so Bristol. And all three of these tracks being specialties for some of these drivers. Regardless of all of that, I think that this first round could provide some surprising results, and it's going to set the tone for the remainder of the playoffs, and you're going to see that automatically with my first round picks. So, kicking it off in Darlington, bold prediction, Tyler Reddick wins and gets his first Cup Series victory there. We saw what Austin Dillon could do there last year in the first race of the playoffs. Not only did he have a great first round and advance to the second round, but he came so freaking close to possibly winning there. And if we had a few more laps, maybe 10 or so, I think Austin would have caught and passed Kevin Harvick for the win. He was running him down in those final laps. And so I think Reddick can possibly pull off the win. I personally would like to see it. That being the fact that, he's had to pretty much literally survive the last couple of races to get into the playoffs, to beat out his teammate Austin Dillon for that final spot. And it would be awesome to see somebody that we don't expect to make it past the first round open up the playoffs with a win and shake everything up automatically. And I think Reddick can do that, and it will, as I said before, it will set the tone for the playoffs. Then we go to Richmond, and I do have Denny Hamlin getting his first win of 2021 here. He almost won here earlier this year, but with a late race restart, he ended up basically just giving it away to Alex Bowman in the final laps. And, that's been the story of Denny's season. He's had the speed that he's always had, but they've had issues with closing out races. Bristol Dirt, Richmond, Indianapolis Road Course, although part of that was involving Chase Briscoe. But either way, they have had a hard time closing out races. And, it's just one of those things where they need to get it together as soon as possible because they'll make it past the first round. That's not, something to be questioned. I'd be shocked if Hamlin managed to fall out of the playoffs in the first round, and that would essentially require him to have two really bad races at Darlington and Richmond, and then some of these guys behind him, or some of these guys towards the back end of the playoff field, guys like Harvick, if SHR can get their shit together for him, Reddick, the aforementioned Reddick, Bell, Kurt Busch, or Shocker, Aric Almirola and Michael McDowell, if they can get that much better finishes than him, and if the points work out that way, because then it would obviously put Denny in a must-win situation at Bristol. I don't see that happening. But I do definitely see Denny going into these playoffs knowing that he needs to get a win and he needs to get one early. And try to build some sort of momentum going into the second round. Because the second round is really going to be where that 11 team is going to get tested, with having, two of the three races there being Talladega and the Roval. So we're going to have to see what happens there. And then we go to Bristol, the cutoff race, and this is going to be where a lot of drivers are going to have their playoff dreams possibly crushed. And I think Kyle Busch is not going to be one of those drivers. I think he's going to go out there and get the win that he probably should have got last year, had lap traffic. I mean, it's Bristol, but had lap traffic not really played a factor, and he could have gotten around Kevin Harvick. He could have won there last year and ended his winless drought earlier than he did. So I think he's going to get redemption and get the win there at a track that he has dominated in the win column in the past in all three series. So joining Reddick, Hamlin, and Kyle Busch, I have Larson, Blaney, Elliott, Bowman, Byron, Logano, Kurt Busch, and Bell, which leaves one spot left. I have Almirola, McDowell, and Harvick exiting the playoffs in the first round, which leaves one other driver to battle for that spot. And it's Martin Truex Jr. and Brad Keselowski. And I have an interesting stat for you guys that one of my friends actually did some research on, and he has MTJ going out in the first round, and his reasoning is this: since Darlington, which was the 12th race of the regular season and the last time that MTJ won this year, his average finish has dropped, or has been a 15.64, or at 15.64 in the next 14 races. He's dropped from 3rd to 7th in the overall points, and he only has 5 top 10s in that 14 race stretch. Now, he dominated Darlington earlier this year when he won, and he could very well do it again. He probably could have won last year at Darlington in the playoffs if he didn't have the incident with Chase Elliott. But if he doesn't win Darlington, and while yes, he's done well at Richmond before, and he's done solid at Bristol before, it's going to make both of those races a bit harder for him, especially when you look at this, because even though he's higher up in the points and is less likely to fall out of the first round, it's still very well possible. Now, as for Kazlowski, I did my own research. Ever since he won Talladega, which was 2 races before MTJ won Darlington, he's had a 15.68 average finish, 4 top 5s and 6 top 10s in that 16 race stretch, and has finished 3 of the last 4 races outside of the top 20 with a 9th place finish in between. And again, he only has 1 win to MTJ's 3, which, MTJ did all at the beginning of the season, and when he looked like a potential championship contender. So if I had to pick between these two for that final round of 12 spot, I'm giving that to Martin Truex Jr. So that's the second bold prediction, is that Brad Keselowski will not make it past the first round of the playoffs this year. after making it to the Final Four last year. The other reason why I don't see Kazlowski getting that far is you look at how his season has gone. Um, there have been a couple of races where him and Logano probably should have finished higher than they did. But think about it like this: Blaney's won the last two races, and he's won three of them this year. Logano only has one win, but has arguably looked better than Keselowski. And Keselowski's not going to be with this team anymore after this season. So, if we're being honest here, I think Penske is more focused on Logano and Blaney, and knowing that Keselowski's not going to be here. And so I think that's the other primary reason why Keselowski will go out in the first round is they're going to have more focus on Blaney and Logano, especially Blaney, now that he's put himself in the conversation to possibly make it to the round of four if he can survive the first round. The first and second rounds, really, but you get my point. And I just don't see Keselowski getting any farther, getting past the first round. Maybe he does. Again, it really all depends on what happens with some of these guys towards the back of the playoff field, how some of these guys' races go, and what happens. And when we get to Bristol, who's behind the cut line, who's near the cut line, and who's safe. So then we go to the round of 12. Vegas, Talladega, and Charlotte. Two of these three races being absolute wild cards. And we've seen how that has played out in the past. Now, looking at Talladega, I do not have a playoff driver winning it this year. Obviously, as we know, Denny Hamlin controversially won at Talladega in the playoffs last year. And the guy that was on the other end of that deal and again almost won Talladega earlier this year, Matt Benedetto, I have either him or Bubba Wallace winning at Talladega. Bubba Wallace has looked really good on the super speedways, and if we saw what happened at Daytona. He's got Daytona down pat, and he ended up with a third place finish that was elevated to second with Chris Buescher getting DQ'd, and he somehow made it through that last big one where everybody was wrecking around him. So and obviously with it being in his home state, despite how the fans are down there, I would love to see Bubba Wallace get the win there. He had a shot to win it at last year's playoff race. He had that wild moment with Joey Logano during the race earlier this year, and was also up near the front with a possible chance to win as well. And then same thing for Benedetto. Last year, he probably should have won, and the whole ending to that race was absolutely just absurd with everything that transpired. Get the right word out there. And he was up near the front at the race at Talladega earlier this year, and unfortunately on the last lap pretty much got shuffled out. And honestly, I'd love to see him get a win because we don't know where he's going to be next year. He's not coming back to the 21. So where is he going to be? And I think getting a win there after, missing out the way he has on a win there the last 2 years and coming so close to winning Bristol, a couple years ago, it would be a nice way to, in part cap off the season. And hopefully we'll see what happens with him, in the near future. As for the other two races at Vegas and the Roval, I have both of them going to Hendrick drivers. So we had two Joe Gibbs drivers win in the first round. This time it's going to be two Hendrick guys. At Las Vegas, I have Alex Bowman taking the win here. And this is the same with Blaney as it is with Bowman. The fact that both of them have won multiple races this year has been something that's been, especially crucial to both of their seasons and both of their careers. And it's just been so awesome to see Bowman put the 48 back in victory lane. Now, they can be inconsistent at times, the whole 48 team in general, but I think they've gotten better compared to last year. They're not entering the playoffs with this same sort of slow momentum that they did last year, where, you know, after we got back from the pandemic break, they just had all this bad luck, and it took them all season long or all regular season long to get some sort of momentum and some sort of consistency going. And then, well, he ended up having a low key, underrated playoff run. This year, he's coming in looking like a potential favorite for the title, as crazy as that sounds. And I think a win here would pay off big time for him. And then for the Charlotte Roval, I don't have it going to Elliott. I have it going to Kyle Larson. And, you know, I want I definitely see Kyle Larson having chances to win at several of these tracks early in the playoffs. So that, and to definitely avoid having a situation like we had with Kevin Harvick last year, although different sort of story in my opinion. But to think that Larson, even with having the 5 wins that he has already, the fact that he should have probably had like 6 or 7, depending on how certain races played out. Obviously, Pocono and I believe it was Atlanta earlier this year when Blaney got his first win of 2021, running Larson down to win there. And then, the aforementioned Bowman winning at Pocono after Larson's tire went out in the final corner. Um, it's just mind boggling to me. But he's going to get the win there. He'll probably be safe to enter the round of 8 anyway, but a win's just going to lock it up for him. And joining them, I have Ryan Blaney, Kyle Busch, the aforementioned Chase Elliott, William Byron, Joey Logano, and Kurt Busch, which means Martin Truex Jr., Denny Hamlin, Christopher Bell, and Tyler Reddick out in the round of 12. For Bell and Reddick, it's nothing to hang their heads on. Reddick, he's in some ways improved from last year. And I think pulling a win off in the playoffs would be a big deal for him. And for Christopher Bell in his first year in the 20 car, his second full time season in Cup, getting that win at the Daytona Roval, which I know Elliott fans will say it should have been his. I get it. But it happened. You got to move on. And for Bell to get that win, and he's come close a couple of times since then to possibly winning. I think New Hampshire he came the closest, and if something happened to Almirola, or if the race was able to run out to the very end, considering that it had to be shortened due to darkness, I think there's a chance that Bell maybe could have caught him, or maybe we would have gotten a caution that would have set up a green-white checker finish, and maybe neither of them would have won. But Bell has had a heck of a season. Reddick's had a pretty good season. And I think both of them making it this far is definitely going to be something to look back on and something that's going to help set them up for next year. As for Truex Jr. and Hamlin, basically the reasons I stated before. Truex Jr., he's going to probably barely squeak in to the second round unless he can win. But I don't see him making it past the second round just for that reason alone, because no offense, but I don't trust this 19 team to be consistent enough and put Martin in a position to win, even at tracks that he's won at before in the first round with Darlington and Richmond, a track that he almost won at the first time we ran it in the Roval. Of course, we all know what happened there. Vegas has been solid to him as well, but of course, Talladega being the big wild card, that if he gets caught up in a wreck there and gets knocked out of the race, it's gonna hurt him. And same thing for Hamlin, even with getting a win in the first round, he's gonna need at least 2 to put him in a better situation entering the round of 12 to then possibly make the round of 8. But again, I'm looking at Talladega, I'm looking at the Roval, and it's not good. I don't think it's gonna look well for either one of those guys. And I think both of their championship hopes will end here. So then we go to the round of 8. Larson, Blaney, Kyle Busch, both Busch brothers, Elliott, Bowman, Byron, and Logano. An interesting mix of drivers considering that we still have all 4 Hendrick guys at this point, two Penske guys, one last guy left from Joe Gibbs Racing, considering his other 3 teammates got knocked out the round before, and Chip Ganassi Racing's own Kurt Busch in what is Chip Ganassi Racing's swan song season now with that team getting bought by Trackhouse. And for Kurt Busch, he's going to be going, of course, to 23XI. So Texas, Kansas, and Martinsville. Going to get Kansas out of the way. I think Denny Hamlin will get his second win of the season there. But of course, it will not be to lock him into the round of four, or the championship four, I should say. So as for Texas and Martinsville, I think Larson's going to go back to back. He's going to win the Roval, and then he's going to win Texas to automatically lock him into the Final Four and make sure that he is there, as he should be. So he doesn't have to be in a sort of Kevin Harvick type situation. So it's going to be it's going to be the other 7 drivers battling for 3 spots going into Martinsville. And originally, I wanted to give this spot to Byron because there's a very real possibility that we could see all 400 cars in the Final Four if they can all make it this far. And Byron's come close to winning Martinsville before. If you remember, a couple years ago, he had to run down Martin Truex Jr. I believe this was in Byron's rookie season. He had to run down Martin Truex Jr., and while it didn't work out for him, that was a second place finish that he damn freaking earned. And as much as I'd love to see Byron win there and put himself in a position to make the Final Four after, winning at Homestead, having that huge streak of finishes that were so freaking good, that's gotten him in this position to be like in the top 5 entering the playoffs. I'm looking at Ryan Blaney. I'm looking at what he's done this year. I don't necessarily want to call this a full breakout season, but it's something close to that. And I'm looking at him and I'm thinking to myself, I want to see this guy win Martinsville. If one of the 2 Penske guys that are left at this point are going to do it, I'd rather have Blaney do it over Logano. Logano can win at Martinsville. He's done it before. But I want to see Blaney get another win on the season. And him winning could very well be the reason why Logano doesn't make the Final Four, aside from having 400 cars in the round of 8. So Larson and Blaney win. So what about the other 2 spots between the other 6 drivers? Well, I think Kyle Busch and Alex Bowman will point their way into the Final Four, which leaves your defending champion Chase Elliott, William Byron, Joey Logano, and Kurt Busch out. Kurt is the ultimate underdog in this situation, and I'd love to see him make the Final Four and be in that championship race at Phoenix. It would be something special to see. Obviously, it took him until freaking Atlanta late in the season to win, but he's had speed at various racetracks, and he has shown flashes that where he could win. It might not, him going to Phoenix and the idea of Kurt Busch winning the title might not be a popular idea to some. It would be nice for Chip Ganassi Racing swan song season, but it would be looked at in history as one of those championships that maybe wasn't so deserved, playoffs and all of that. But for him to make it this far again after last year winning Vegas in the round of 12 to get him into a position to be in the round of 8, or I should say to put him in the round of 8 with a shot to make the Final Four, it would be a nice, fitting end, for these past couple of years and to end this Chip Ganassi Racing chapter for Kurt Busch and bring him into his new chapter with 23XI next year alongside Bubba Wallace. For William Byron getting this far, as I said before, as much as I want to see him win Martinsville and put himself in the Final Four, even though I have Blaney doing it, Byron would be a nice choice as well. And he would certainly deserve it. He's definitely had a breakout season. Logano, once again, gets far in the playoffs, but doesn't make the Final Four. Maybe one day we'll see him repeat as champion, but it won't be this year. And then for Chase Elliott, he just has not had the type of season a defending champion would have. He's won a couple of times, but one of those was a rain shortened race at a road course. You know what? Both of his wins have come at road courses. He has had some. His team has had some pit road gaffes that have just been mind boggling, and I just don't see it. Now, can he defend his title? It's possible. If he can get himself into the Final Four, it's very well possible that he can do it. He's won at Kansas before. He's obviously done well at Martinsville before. Texas, he can do well at. He can get wins earlier in the playoffs, but I don't see him defending his title this year. So as for the Final Four, Larson, Blaney, Busch, and Bowman, three of the four have never made it this far. And the one that has is Kyle Busch, who's won the championship twice. But at the end of the day, I think we all know who is most likely to win the title. And if he can get to the Final Four and put himself in a position to do it, he's going to do it. Kyle Larson will be your 2021 NASCAR Cup Series champion. And in terms of how I have the Final Four finishing out, Kyle Busch second, Bowman third, and Blaney fourth in that order. Maybe not necessarily by finishing order in the race, but certainly by finishing order of the Final Four battling for this title. And it's just crazy, I get it. There will be some fans that will not be happy if Larson wins the title, because of everything that's happened. There are still people that hold a grudge from what he did last year. At this point, he's done so much to better himself, and he did all of that outside of the public eye all of last year. Even if he didn't do what he did, I'm pretty sure he would have ended up at Hendrick anyway. Now, I'm not condoning what he did, obviously, but I think when you look at it before that happened, there was already conversations that with it being Jimmy's retirement year, that there could be a chance that Larson was going to end up there anyway. And then, for the other three guys here, for Blaney to have the season he's had, I think it's going to set him up with some momentum going into next year. Because if you remember, I said back in my predictions video, I didn't have Blaney winning. And I said that he needed to have a really good season, or he needed to do so much better than he's done in the last couple of years to really save himself from possibly putting himself on the hot seat going into next year with Penske. And he has certainly proved my ass wrong, that's for sure. For Kyle Busch, making it this far again, a bounce back year after what happened last year, awesome for him. And same thing for Bowman to make it this far, is just, again, making it one step further than he did last year and doing it more noticeably, would be one hell of a story as well. But with all that being said, thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts down below, and I will see you all next time. Peace.